It is one of the most recognizable faces in all of Star Wars. The dark hood, the crimson and black mask, the blank staring eyes that hid one of the most powerful beings to ever live. When you picture Darth Revan, you picture that mask. But here's what most people never realize. That mask was never his. It wasn't built by the Sith. It wasn't forged for a Dark Lord. It belonged to a Mandalorian, a woman whose name history barely remembers. And the reason Revan put it on is one of the most tragic stories in the Old Republic. This is the true story behind Revan's mask. You have to go back to the Mandalorian Wars to understand the mask. A brutal campaign of conquest that tore across the galaxy nearly 4,000 years before the rise of the Empire. The Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders swept from world to world, and few places suffered more than the planet Cathar, homeworld of the feline Cathar species. The assault on Cathar was led by one of the most feared commanders the Mandalorians ever produced, Cassus Fett. And what happened there wasn't a battle. It was an extermination. In the year 3973 BBY, the Mandalorians drove the Cathar people into the sea. They were beaten, cornered, defenseless, and in that moment, one Mandalorian stood against her own. A Mandalorian woman present during the slaughter went to Cassus Fett and tried to stop him. The Cathar were already defeated, she argued. There was no honor, no need in killing them now. The war was won. Let them live. Cassus Fett refused. He ordered his warriors to finish the massacre, so she did the only thing she could. She turned and tried to defend the Cathar herself, standing between an entire army and a dying people. And she was killed for it. When it was over, her body was lost to the slaughter, but her mask washed up on the shores of Cathar, and there it stayed, a silent marker of the one Mandalorian who chose mercy, and died for it. 10 years later, the war had a new face. A brilliant, charismatic Jedi named Revan had defied the Jedi Council and led an army to stop the Mandalorians. His search for evidence of their atrocities brought him to Cathar, to that very shore. And there, half buried, he found the mask. When the light struck it, something extraordinary happened. Every Jedi present was hit by a vision through the Force, a window into the massacre that had happened a decade before. They saw the slaughter. They saw the Cathar driven into the sea. And they saw her, the lone Mandalorian woman who tried to stop it, and gave her life in the attempt. Revan understood exactly what he was looking at. This mask hadn't belonged to a monster. It had belonged to the one person in that nightmare who tried to do the right thing. In that moment, Revan made a choice that would define him forever. He picked up the dead woman's mask, and he put it on, and he swore an oath he would not remove it until he and his followers had brought the Mandalorians to justice, until the kind of atrocity that happened on Cathar could never happen again. Think about what that means. The most feared mask in galactic history didn't start as a symbol of evil. It started as a memorial. Revan wore it to honor a fallen enemy, who had more honor than the army she fought for, and with that mask, Revan became something more than a man. He became a symbol. An icon defined not by his face, his feelings, or his beliefs, but purely by his actions. The shaper of history. No one needed to see the man underneath. The mask was the message. But Revan never kept his vow. The Mandalorians were finally crushed at the devastating battle of Malachor V. The war was won. By his own oath, that was the moment to take the mask off. He never did. Revan kept wearing it, through the end of the war, and into the darkness that came after, because the same journey that led him to victory had also led him toward the dark side. When the Jedi Revan fell, and became Darth Revan, the mask came with him. And so the memorial became something else entirely. To the galaxy, that mask was no longer a symbol of a brave Mandalorian woman. It was the face of a ruthless Sith. Very few people alive even knew what Revan truly looked like underneath. He had become the mask, and the mask had become a legend of fear. That is the story most people never hear. The mask of Darth Revan, one of the most iconic symbols in Star Wars, was born not from the dark side, but from an act of mercy on a slaughtered world. It belonged to a Mandalorian who died defending the defenseless. Revan wore it to honor her and to promise justice. And by the time his story ended, that promise was buried under everything he became, a symbol of compassion worn by a Sith Lord. That's the tragedy hidden behind Revan's mask. If you want the full story of Revan himself, let us know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.